Imagine taking a strategic, connective approach to your next business expansion, placing your business in the heart of the Caribbean as a hub between USA, Latin America, and Europe. Imagine enjoying the perks of a modern, accessible international airport that offers pre-clearance to all USA destinations. Let us introduce you to Aruba. Aruba offers the best of the Caribbean, has great foreign relations, and a strong democratic and judicial system with strong ties to Europe. Do business inside the same political stable environment you are used to. Aruba's government stands out globally as one of the most highly rated countries when it comes to governance indicators that nurtures investors' confidence. And for decades, Aruba has fostered optimal economic conditions for sustained influx of foreign investors. Because Aruba enjoys a market-driven economy supported by the thriving tourism industry, foreigners are welcome to own property. You can also enjoy the ease of well-developed commercial banking system for all your business needs. Even the weather cooperates for your business success, keeping your next investment safe right outside the hurricane belt, so you can keep operations going all year round. And what is a business without the freedom to explore rich, diverse natural resources a short drive away? Delight in unique flavors and a wide variety of nightlife and entertainment options. We definitely know how to show you a good time, bring you much needed relaxation time. Make a success of your next investment. Accessing the most cosmopolitan, diversified, multicultural, and multilingual workforce in the region. Here, you have ample access to highly educated staff and business partners to get your operations off to a strong start.
Bienvenue na Aruba, one happy investment island.
Good morning and welcome to the Aruba Investment Summit 2021 by the Aruba Investment Agency, ARENA. My name is Marielsa Croes. I'm an economist and agile coach, and for the coming 3 days, I will be hosting this event. This summit aims to put Aruba on the spotlight as an investment destination and highlight the many business opportunities in Aruba's promising sectors. I would like to begin to thank each and every one of you for participating in this event. I would also like to take a moment to thank our sponsors who have made this event possible. Our sponsors are Action Coach Aruba, Elite, JDB, Digital, and Setar NV. Today we will start with an opening from our Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, and Culture of Aruba. After this, we will gather for 2 fireside chats, where we will learn more about Aruba's business climate from the private sector's perspective, and we will talk about how incorporating sustainability in your investments on Aruba can lead to success. We will end the day with roundtable sessions. You can sign up for these. Before we start, we want to take a moment for a poll. Please let us know, what is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Aruba? I'm sure this event will either way change how you view Aruba. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we will discuss more in depth our promising sectors, which are namely 3 of them. We will be discussing the agriculture, we will discuss logistics, and knowledge economy. I would like to introduce to you our Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs, and Culture of Aruba, Her Excellency Xiomara Maduro. Her Excellency started her political career as a Member of Parliament of Aruba in 2009 and was re-elected in 2013, where she focused on public finance. Prior to Parliament, she served as a policy advisor at the Financial Intelligence Unit of Aruba. She holds a Master's of Laws degrees in Dutch Business Law from the University of Groningen and a Bachelor's in Economics from the University of Applied Sciences of Arnhem and Nijmegen, both in the Netherlands. Please welcome Xiomara Maduro.
Ladies and gentlemen, buen dia. As we say in Aruba, bienvenue, you are welcome. We are connected today virtually, but things are looking up for Aruba, so I very much like to welcome you in person one of these days on our one happy island. Of course, we are still connecting virtually today from all over the world. I would like to welcome you and thank you for being here with us. And of course, a special thank you also to the ambassadors and the heads of the economic divisions of all the Royal Dutch embassies for the extraordinary support they have given this summit. Of course, we are here today because we want to build with each other great businesses. We are here because of the next 3 days. We want to show you why Aruba is the best place to create wealth. The same talent, perseverance, and conviviality that has made Aruba a top-rated tourist destination is also present to help your business thrive into the new promising sectors of Aruba. In 2019, Aruba was experiencing a high economic growth in years with a positive private sector job growth, showing the strength of Aruba's economy. After an unprecedented economic recession in 2020, we are looking once more on a positive economic growth in 2021 and the years to come. Aruba can provide you a pool of talented local professionals. Each year, more than 7,000 students in Aruba attend secondary school to receive an education that is organized in the similar ways as in the system in the Netherlands, with the aim of transition to higher education. In addition, Aruba has a preferential entry to the United States and the European Union, lowering the cost of exporting. If you add to that the strategic location of our island at the crossroads connecting North America, South America, and Europe, you can conclude that Aruba is an ideal location to do your business in the region, with the US and, of course, with Europe. Aruba has offered for several decades favorable opportunities and conditions for foreign direct investments, attracting an impressive amount of FDI for such a small island as Aruba, leading Aruba to have one of the highest GDP per capita in the region, with 97% of Aruba businesses consisting of small and medium enterprises. Aruba boasts an environment of entrepreneurs, risk-taking, and innovation for foreign investors, no matter if you are a small company or if you are a big major multinational. Today, we launch ARENA. ARENA stands for Aruba Investment Promotion Agency, as a unit of the Department of Economic Affairs, with a new logo and, of course, a new branding. Aruba will once again have a single point of contact for investors. As part of the vibrant Department of Economic Affairs, ARENA consists of a team that has one mission, and that is to create new jobs for Aruba's new economic sector, the Aruba's promising sectors. With this mission in mind, and the team at ARENA will connect investors with the Aruban business sector and will provide all necessary information on doing business with Aruba, making it easier for the investor to establish and create wealth in Aruba. In an economy where trade and investment can shape economic change, partnerships are keys to success. In the Aruba Trade Board, we combine knowledge and expertise and lead a coordinated effort to stimulate international trade and investment for Aruba businesses. The composition of the Aruba Trade Board is such to create a structural partnership between the public sector and the private sector, with the Aruba Chamber of Commerce, the Aruba Trade and Industry Association, and the Free Zone Aruba as members. Through institutions like ARENA and the Aruba Trade Board, Aruba can promote its new promising sectors to investors in order to create more jobs and more economic activity and, of course, new economic sectors. By letting investors know that Aruba has opportunities outside the main economic pillar, being tourism, we can attract innovation, efficiency, quality, and we can build a resilient Aruban economy. But, of course, we do need success stories. And in that sense, in 2018, a German initiative brought a German delegation consisting of experts of the German energy sector to Aruba, while working very closely with the Department of the Economic Affairs, the Ministry of General Affairs and Utilities, and they met with different stakeholders to present a unique island solutions made in Germany. These conversations involved in more concrete actions, and of course, in March 2021, a German consortium and as a part of the German initiative presented its plan to build a smart energy house in Aruba as a showcase in the region. We want more of these success stories like this. We want more of your support, Aruba, in providing a unique and innovative island solutions to invest and, of course, to create your wealth. In the next 3 days, we are welcoming local and foreign participants, and we encourage you to network during the breaks and attend the roundtable sessions to get customized information and on investing in Aruba, so you can make a deal with the business partners and invest in Aruba. I hope sincerely that you will enjoy this Aruba Investment Summit, and I wish to welcome you very soon to Aruba, but in this case to the one Aruba Happy Investment Island. Thank you all. Bombini and good luck.
Thank you, Her Excellency Xiomara Maduro, for this wonderful opening. As you may know by now, this event was made possible by the Aruba Investment Agency, ARENA. Today we present ARENA, that has the important task of investment promotion and will be the first contact for investors for the promising sectors. As a new unit of the Department of Economic Affairs, Commerce and Industry, today I would like to present to you its brand new look. Shall we have a look? All right. So this icon is the official new logo, which symbolizes 4 building blocks that become the letter A of Aruba. In the middle, you will find the Aruba star, fulfilling its role as a compass, guiding us into the 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. Always open for aspiring businesses and investments to find our island. The Aruban star is in the middle, and is much more than a remembrance of our heritage, but a spirit and guiding force into infinite opportunities that is grounded in the aspiration of success. The color blue is the color of Aruba's flag. Together with investors, we want to build a better, more resilient and sustainable Aruba. The colors red, yellow, and white are the other colors of the Aruban flag, but also the vibrancy and inspiration of our colorful aspirations and passion for our Aruban community, who is welcoming you to new opportunities only Aruba can offer. The last slides show the website of ARENA that will be live soon. So stay tuned for this website, for the launch. These are just examples of the pages on the website. For more information and updates about investment possibilities in Aruba, you can always contact Zuleika Quant at z.quant@deaci.oa. I will ask one of our, so here you can see the email, and you can also contact Zulema Dabian Erasmus at z.erasmus@diaci.oe. Thank you. I would now like to introduce to you our first speaker of the day, Mrs. Maria Dijkhoff-Pita. She is the Director of the Department of Economic Affairs, Commerce and Industry of Aruba. Mrs. Maria Dijkhoff-Pita is an economist who started her career at this department in 1991 as an economic policy advisor. Since 2005, she is the Director of the Department of Economic Affairs, Commerce and Industry, and she has played a key role in defining economic policy and investment strategy. Maria Dijkhoff-Pita is also the Deputy Territorial Authorizing Officer for the European Development Fund in Aruba. Please welcome Maria Dijkhoff-Pita.
Thank you, Marilinda. Good morning to all participants of the Aruba Investment Summit 2021. Today I will telling you about the promising sectors, and I will start my presentation of the promising sectors by giving you a quick view on the economy of Aruba pre and during the pandemic, as well as the economic recovery projections for 2021-2023. I also want to explain why there is an importance of diversification for small island economies like Aruba. Aruba over the years has confronted many challenges that were many times originated by external international factors like 9/11, financial crisis, and also local factors like the closure of the refinery that impacted our economy in 2012. The reality is that notwithstanding many efforts of diversification in the past 15 years, Aruba has not succeeded in diversifying its economy. The Aruban situation even worsened since 2012 after the closure of the oil refinery, which resulted in Aruba's economy depending only on one economic sector. Our dependency on tourism has increased heavily since the 90s, and the COVID-19 pandemic has once more proved us that dependency on one economic sector is not sustainable. The need to diversify the economy is now more relevant than ever. The following graph shows Aruba GDP before and during the pandemic and gives us an illustration of how the COVID-19 pandemic affected the economy of Aruba in 2020 and beyond. For 2020, we see an extreme decline in our nominal GDP growth of 25.2%. In 2021, we see an increase of 5.1%, by 2022, 6.2%, and in 2023, 10.8%. The main drivers for this growth are tourism revenues and increase in investments as of 2022 onwards. In the following graph, we can see the development of GDP in nominal terms since 2014. I must clarify that the figures from 2014 until 2018 are realized figures from the national accounts produced by the Central Bureau of Statistics in Aruba. The figures from 2019 onwards and calculated by the Maruba model. In this graph, we can see the substantial drop of the 25.2% of GDP in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic that had a devastating effect on the tourism, Aruba's biggest sector. Still, Aruba is showing how resilient we are and how strong our tourism sector is. After a short lockdown between March 15 and June 1, 2020, the tourism sector slowly started to recuperate in the last quarter of 2020 and surpassed the expectations in the first quarter of 2021. Most important is that the projections are favorable, indicating a steady recovery much better than anticipated last year. Nevertheless, the pandemic has shown us how vulnerable we are and that diversification of the economy has to be our #1 priority for the economic policy going forward. And this is something we knew already before the pandemic, and therefore since 2018, the governor of Aruba approved the economic policy, a strong and resilient economy 2019-2022, and the investment strategy 2019-2024. In May 2018, the government requested OCO Global to help define the sectors that could stimulate the diversification of the economy of Aruba. Through a participative process, government and private sector experts were consulted and specific sectors were identified. Whereas the physical opportunities for economic diversification remain somewhat limited due to the relatively small size of local markets, there are many digital opportunities for economic diversification. Following the criteria for diversification, the tax recommendations of the Department of Taxes and the IMF, the support to entrepreneurs, and a well-defined investment promotion strategy, we are ready to start the road towards diversification. We must keep in mind that diversification requires a collaborative effort between the private and public sector, and that it takes years before real results can be seen. We hope that these 3 days of the Aruba Investment Summit will convince you that investing in Aruba is also your next priority. The policy objectives to develop the economy of Aruba are people-centered. Quality of life. We want to contribute to a higher quality of life for all citizens and leave no one behind by creating inclusive and decent jobs for the new generations and minimize brain drain of our young professionals and to facilitate new innovative business opportunities by stimulating local and foreign investments and diversification in the promising sectors. The sectors identified are tourism, specific niche products, knowledge economy, agriculture, logistics, circular economy, and creative industries. The tourism sector is well developed in Aruba, and we are one of the most successful destinations in the Caribbean. Now we want to ensure tourism substantial economic benefits by stimulating diversification within the tourism sector while growing the quality instead of the quantity. The diversification strategy for tourism will support in sustaining and cultivating a consistent source of visitors' arrivals and expenditures over periods of varying economic cycles. To maintain the tourism's substantial economic benefit and to let it grow further, it is important to innovate and to create value in tourism in order to continue to enhance Aruba's position in the international tourism market. Niche developments such as development of culture, sport, adventure, and medical tourism will be an important tool to achieve this. The development of San Nicolas as a cultural center will also support the niche development and enhance Aruba's attractiveness and international competitiveness. Knowledge economy will focus on the growing number of millennials that are ready to help us develop the knowledge economy with specialized labor force characterized as computer literate and well-trained in handling data and innovating on processes and systems. The focus is on renewable energy technology, ICT island-based solutions to create efficiency and innovation and higher education. An example of the last is the system faculty at the University of Aruba, of which you will hear more tomorrow. Another sector with huge potential is the logistics sector. Supported by a top-of-the-line airport and maritime ports, an ideal combination to create a hub function in the Caribbean, US, Europe, and Latin America. The Free Zone Aruba is there to support investments in the hub function. A growing sector is the agriculture. During the pandemic, this sector has proven to be feasible and necessary to safeguard food security. We have several small businesses active in this sector using modern technology and using different crops that were tested for the climate of Aruba. Recently, in 2021, the World Bank did an assessment of this sector and the opportunities that are there waiting for investors to take a lead. Agriculture in Aruba will need investments in modern technologies. We are also looking into fish farming investors as the waters around Aruba are perfect for some type of fish farming. Circular economy plays an important role in achieving sustainability. With the growing consumption pattern in the world and also in Aruba, waste has become a problem, but also a business opportunity. Aruba has a circular vision for 2015 to become a sustainable circular economy. And the objective is to stimulate a circular economy in Aruba that will create jobs, eliminate waste, stimulate export, and produce energy. We aim to minimize waste by developing business in maintenance, repair, reuse, and recycling activities. Creative industries is also a growing industry worldwide that creates economic value. The use of art, music, graphic designs, fashion, and many other expressions of creativity and culture are opportunities to develop new businesses. There is a growing market for these products and services in Aruba and the Caribbean. Additionally, I want to focus a couple of minutes on why you should invest in Aruba. There are many reasons to invest in Aruba, and in those 3 days, you will hear from real investors why they choose Aruba to develop and grow their businesses. Probably the most important is our people. We are a multicultural society, and we are known for our hospitality, friendliness, and always ready to assist you. That's why we are called the One Happy Island. We offer you and your family a high standard of living and a safe environment to live. Stability. Being part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and our democratic constituency puts us in the advantaged position of a stable government. Our link with the European Union as an overseas country territory makes us part of the European family and honoring the same principles and consistent with European policies on climate change, environmental protection, and the Sustainable Development Goals. Safety and security that contributes to higher quality of life and success of your business. Strategic location, an important relations with the European Union and the USA through trade agreements and associations. Connectivity. As mentioned before, Aruba offers a high-quality airport and maritime facilities, as well as one of the best telecommunication internet connections in the region. Finance. Our banking system is robust, and with our local banks have their correspondent banks in the US and Canada, the fixed exchange rate of the florin to the US, and the supervision of the Central Bank of Aruba. Education, we offer primary, secondary, and tertiary education based on the Dutch system, as well as international schools for your family. Our professional labor force has been educated in the Netherlands, the US, Latin America, and Aruba. And last but not least, of great importance to Aruba is the investor's profile. Investors should want to invest long-term and use innovative business models, technology, and ideas. To have an entrepreneurial spirit and be highly motivated to succeed. Very important is that whenever possible, the investor should use local labor. Attractive are those investments that provide high-skilled labor and have their own financial resources to invest in Aruba. Investors that have a broad knowledge and an extensive network will facilitate the possibilities to grow their business outside the frontiers of Aruba. Export should be one of their goals. Furthermore, it's very important that the investor embraces a sustainable development and adheres to the principles of corporate and social responsibility with high integrity levels. Herewith, I want to close my presentation and wish all of you a very fruitful summit and invite you to have conversations with the different organizations and participants of this summit for additional information. We are here to assist you step by step and make your business in Aruba a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, for that insightful presentation. It brings me such hope and excitement to learn about these promising sectors and also learn about the good prospects for Aruba's economy. Next up, we have with us today a fireside chat. I have with me Mrs. Marielsa Croes, a managing partner in MGM Source. After this chat, there will be a Q&A session, and I would like to already invite you to submit your questions in the Q&A section of the chat box during this fireside chat so that we can pose these questions later. Marielsa Croes is, as I said, a managing partner of MGM Source, a consulting firm offering corporate finance products. She has a Master's of Science degree from the London School of Economics, specializing in economics, social policy, and planning in developing countries. She also holds a bachelor's degree from Boston University in International Relations, with a special focus on economics and intercultural relations. She previously worked as an economist at the Central Bureau of Statistics, and then she switched to the private sector at the Aruba Investment Bank, now AIB Bank, NV. After 15 years, she opened her own boutique consulting firm, MGM Source, and was joined by a business partner soon after. Marielsa Croes is also on the executive board of the pension fund Tourism Sector Aruba, and on the supervisory board of FCCA, like a mortgage fund. Without further ado, please help me welcome Mrs. Marielsa Croes. Marielsa, I've already given a little introduction for you, but would you mind telling me something, especially for those who don't know you, something about yourself that you don't know?
Sure. Yes, thank you for the welcome. Good morning to everybody. Bon dia, as we say in Aruba. So my name is Marielsa Croes. I'm born and raised in Aruba. Studied abroad, as per what Marilinda has mentioned. I'm deeply passionate about socioeconomic well-being of people, interconnections of countries, which is demonstrated by what I've studied as well. I'm also very interested in a balanced living, so healthy lifestyle. I'm a mother of 2 children, which is important to mention because they're an important component of my life, of course. I love arts, quite diverse in what I like, and mostly really want the well-being of our islands. So yeah.
Thank you, Marielsa. So you're working in the private sector, and I think what people really want to know or they're itching is, can you describe what it's like to do business here in Aruba in normal economic times?
Right.
Now things are a bit crazy, but
yes, actually, it's a very good point. After having left, I left with 16 years and went to study abroad. So when I experienced the international, let's say, culture and business culture, and returned back to Aruba, it was a little bit of a culture shock at the beginning, to be fully honest. But I think one thing that's quite remarkable of Aruba is that our professional standards are quite high. So a lot of times people's perceptions are, you're an island, very relaxed and you barely do business or perhaps don't go to the office or, it's very contrary. I find that people here are very hardworking. The private sector is quite dedicated, hardworking. It's not easy to make your money. It's a small market. So that I think is a very important thing to mention because people are dedicated, they are entrepreneurial, the private sector is very active. You mentioned pre-COVID times, of course. Things changed quite a bit during COVID, where our economy is driven by tourism, as you well know, by far, right? It dominates over 80% of our economy. So that is part of our culture and business culture as well, right? The welcoming of international people locally. I think one thing that I find very interesting is also the combination of business owners being locals and international and how that interaction goes. I think it's quite pleasing how well Aruba behaves in that area. And honestly, even with the COVID, we had a big drawback economically, but still, people are just calm and receptive and patient.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I can definitely recognize what you say, and people are being very hardworking here. And I mean, I the culture shock, I also experienced that when I came back from studying. I actually studied in the Netherlands. But I was more in terms of, I think, even while I work in the banking sector and noticing that how strict we are here as well, exactly. And being very good with compliance and all those things. So that's really, really important. So I have to say, proud of Aruba in those terms.
Actually, what you just mentioned is important to reiterate, because I think we are stricter than a lot of the developed countries that they call the big countries. Aruba is very stringent and professional in that matter, and indeed, good point.
Yeah. And when you were talking about the people and being we're very welcoming towards, not just tourists, but also foreign investors, how would you describe as well the overall labor force that we have here?
Right. I think one thing that's very important to remark of the labor force in Aruba is that, the diversification extends to the labor force as well, right? So we had an economic sector growing in the last 30 years to become a very well-known, tourism market, as you know. But we needed international persons to assist in that sector. We needed immigrants, and I find that integration went really well. What I think is important to mention is the trainability of the people. The private sector shifted. So 30 years ago, I think, previous to this session, the Economic Affairs was mentioning how the economic trajectory was in Aruba. But the fact that we transitioned to focus on tourism, and the fact that everybody went along with that transition and really was willing and receptive to be trained toward a new sector, and then become such an important tourism market internationally, I think that shows a lot of resilience and adaptability. So I think that in general, we have a very trainable type of labor force. We need to stimulate that further with newer things, of course, going ahead.
Yeah.
But I think that that is one thing I can say. Of course, we have hiccups, in the labor force, just like most other places where you do have to be on top of it with your workers, et cetera. But as a generality, and like I said, I think in the COVID times, which is a crisis time, you can tell that people are patient. They're still relatively thankful for what they have and dedicated to Aruba as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And if you go around now as well, you will notice that, and you will still notice this atmosphere. I remember it was actually really sad when the tourists were not coming here anymore, because we're so used to that and so used to the service-minded and catering to other people's needs. And I think that's just something that is really embedded in our culture, no matter in which sector you work.
Right.
Basically.
Yes, I found it also very, very noticeable. People were missing the tourists, offering the services as they wanted to. And that's beautiful, really, right? So that shows a little bit of appreciation of what we have in the economic sector and appreciation of the tourists. And I think that's definitely a very important asset that we have.
Yeah. And if we look at other sectors in terms of looking at labor force more so not just in the tourism sector, but if we think about you're working a lot with corporate finance.
Yeah.
How do you see that dynamic there in the labor?
Right. So that's why I mentioned the trainability, because I think it's important to note that since we are so tourist-oriented and the serviceability that you have, a lot of those assets are applicable in various other sectors, right? The serviceability especially, and the willingness to want to thrive and accommodate and adapt to different cultures coming like you do in tourism. Recently, coincidentally, I had a session with an international investor on I can't mention the project, but it's in one of the news sectors that was mentioned. And they were also asking about the people. And we were saying how, we do have industries that support the tourism that demonstrate also the relatively high level of education that we have locally, of course, with room for growth. But again, highlighting the trainability of the people and the willingness to accommodate in the different sectors to make it work, really. I think that we could and have the potential to adapt our people to various different needs. I mean, we do have the past oil refinery and the people that had worked in there, and they shifted after that closed, and that was not important anymore for our economy. They shifted to other industries, became creative enough and resilient enough to move onward. So I think that that shows that we have that adaptability, which is very important, right?
Yeah, no, I agree, for sure. And when we're talking about we used to have the oil refinery, now we have the tourism sector. How would you explain a little bit more the current economic structure and other opportunities that we have on Aruba?
Yeah, so that is a challenge because pre-COVID, our economy was so tourism-driven. To be honest with you, I think that we even got a little bit lazy, right? So we're used to our tourism booming, and the hotels were relatively full. We are aware that here in Aruba, one of the biggest brands, their largest occupancies experienced globally were experienced here. Yeah. So the economic structure was a little bit, let's say, how do you say that word, fancied with the tourism coming and then not having to create new industries, right? So now that the COVID, obviously, wave of closures of our most important sector showed and illustrated further that we really do need to diversify. We've been speaking about it for 30 years or more, in any case, many, many years, but it's not an easy thing to do. So our economic structure is predominantly tourism, with all the ancillary business that goes along with it. I mean, even the banking sector without tourism would be far less because you have all those businesses that depend, again, on the tourists. So now the vulnerability is highlighted in all levels of people, places, businesses that experienced reduction of revenue in such great numbers during the COVID crisis situation, which we're still recuperating from. It's not there yet, right?
No, for sure. And where do you see? I mean, we know the three promising sectors that we are highlighting during the summit are agriculture, logistics, and knowledge economy.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself?
Assisting, perhaps?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so yeah, as you mentioned, we have a boutique firm and we offer economic, financial, and investment advisory, right? And for years, of course, the dominating requests were also tourist driven.
Yeah.
So we had to deal with, new hotels, condominiums, and then we appreciated that, of course, people that wanted to invest a lot of money in Aruba. But now, with the changes and the fact that we have limited property left and all that, we are also embedding, well, also in the tourism sector, I must say, we're embedding, first of all, the sustainability aspects in the tourism sector. We cannot underestimate the fact that tourism is going to remain for a long time, if not forever, the mainstay of Aruba, but it needs to be complemented with other industries. And we try to, with these large investors, even in the tourism sector, to embed and highlight those areas where possible. Like we prepare, just so you have an idea, we prepare socio-economic impact studies, for example, for clients. And in there we have a lot of advisory sessions with the clients themselves as to how they see they could add value to Aruba. Previously, let's say a decade or so ago, these elements were not really addressed. Now they're becoming more important, also internationally, right? I mean,
yeah, it was more, what can Aruba do for me? And now we're also thinking about...
You want them to do something for Aruba.
Yeah,
and we, as Arubans, and we are firm, we work in the Dutch Caribbean, so we love our islands, and we want to safeguard it. Yeah. So we try, actually, in all elements, I mean, I'm talking the financial part, the social part, the socio-economic well-being of Arubans is very important. By the way, it classifies also for the part of, for example, who would they be hiring? Focus on training the locals to also elevate their positions in larger institutions, including hotels, for example, but also in the new industries. Partner up with them, engage them, bring the knowledge home.
Yeah, that's very important, taking this more holistic approach.
Exactly.
Because I think it's also a guarantee for a longer term success for businesses.
For everybody.
For everyone. Yeah.
Exactly.
For sure. And because I was thinking like how, when we saw the COVID crisis happen, I think one of the main panics here was, and that's why I love seeing the promising sector of agriculture, because everyone's like, oh, food. Because
yes.
We're so heavily dependent on imports.
Yes, it's a big scare also to feel that you can be shut off.
Yes. Do you see also that, do you have clients coming for that as well already?
We do, actually. Actually, it's a good question because one of the important things is that Aruba, has its challenges. We are an arid country. We don't have the lush waterfall as do the upper islands, let's say, of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So we do have our challenges with agriculture, which has always been. So water has always been the expense, property as well. We're a small island. Yeah. But we're busy with some very innovative projects that clients come up with that take Aruba's situation into account and the limited resources. And there are nowadays, with all the innovation, there's so many things you can do, right? I mean, I wish I could talk about my projects here and it wouldn't be that private, but there are some very interesting, because as you know, Aruba felt the fact and the vulnerability now. But I mean, international already, this SDG goals has been going on. The focus on sustainability is global. So these things are to be applied in all countries, not only in the large countries. And so, innovation for countries like these, having the challenge of the aridity and the small size, you have to be extra creative, which actually is a nice challenge to have in a project.
Yeah, and how would you say how is Aruba receptive to these new and innovative projects? I think that's also very interesting for viewers.
Aruba is receptive to a certain extent. I think in the financial world, and you mentioned, I'm on the board of a couple of financial institutions myself, and you also mentioned compliance, for example. Aruba, in general, has a strict and quite risk-adverse financial climate, which means we don't have risk capital. So risk capital is a big limitation that we're encountering. So a lot of these big projects, especially if they're local, they don't have equity. This has been a problem for years, right? This has been a problem for years. Everybody, here locally knows this is an issue. It's common to small states because, of course, you only have a limited amount of wealthy persons and wealthy families and so forth. So risk capital is, I find, the biggest gap with these innovations. So even though everybody has appetite, but it needs to be matched and compensated by this risk capital. Cannot be handled alone by the market locally.
No, for sure. And this is something that, I mean, if we think about FDI, that's something that
Exactly.
would be very handy.
Exactly. That's why I mentioned it as well, because that's what we need. We need partnerships from international people that are willing to take the risk to come to Aruba and start something innovative, but partner up with the local, innovators, the local financial institutions, and then together make it happen. And they'll get great returns if you look at Aruba's history of making things happen. Aruba does show that, right? So
yeah, and there are many people out there busy, and It's been really refreshing to see that since the pandemic.
Absolutely.
A lot of new ideas, and so that's really great. And why else would you say it's very important for Aruba to welcome FDI? What are other aspects to that that's very important for us?
Right. So I mean, as you know, so tourism brings foreign reserves. We need foreign reserves to be created. So of course, when the COVID happened and the hotels got shut down, we had nothing coming in. It was crazy, right? So the capital is simply not flowing in the island. We need that. We need that to survive, actually. So we want FDI from people that consider Aruba's interests, because that I do want to reiterate that, because I think it's very important. In the past, many islands have been exploited. That's like historic, hopefully now, but that has been traditional to exploit resources of lesser countries. Let's call them that, according to developed countries. Now that's not permitted. I mean, that's not what we want. We want added value. We want partnerships. We want you to contribute and really want to add value to our island. That's what we welcome, right? And ultimately, it will bring return for everybody in a better way. But hopefully keeping part of it locally also and reinvesting here.
Yeah, I think a lot of opportunities if you reinvest here that you make things greater and better. And I think I'm happy that a lot of new investment opportunities, they're actually thinking about, the new investors are thinking about this, and that's really great.
They are. It is nice to see, by the way, because that's something that was not in the periphery before. So,
no, for sure. And what would you say are the main hurdles found in the Aruban environment? So we already talked about compliance, but
yes, compliance remains one that is a challenge for a lot of international people, because we are by far, especially in appearance-wise, the way that we implement certain compliance regulations, it appears very, very strict. It may be perceived as, you're not welcome here. That is not the case. You are welcome here, but just that the list is a little bit long of things that you have to comply with. Other than that, there is the ease of doing business in the sense of the bureaucracy that we do experience still in the governmental agencies, especially. I mean, I can't deny it. I think personally, I think it is a burden. We experience it with our clients a lot. Lack of consistency, lack of swift handling. There have been some improvements in the last months for sure in some areas, and some digitalization and some improvements there. The COVID contributed to those needs as well, yes. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. I think those are the biggest hurdles, the swiftness of handling. We have investors who don't seem to get answers, very concrete answers as to what steps they need to take to proceed. So we as advisors, of course, assist here and there with the local environment. But it is a challenge for, if you were just to come and try to do business, it's not just like that. We have a barrier of entry that is challenging, but still a lot of people want to come. So that's a good thing.
No, for sure. And I think, it's not completely a bad thing that we have the strict compliance. I think, you can really count on Aruba to want to always do the right thing.
Exactly.
So I think as an investor coming here, you can take a positive spin on that, of course. And that's really why it is.
Absolutely. It's a safe environment. It's not one of those environments where you'll be caught afterwards with some strange things, because it will have filtered things. We'll have really gone through all the lists and does due diligence. And absolutely right. I agree with you on that completely. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you mentioned as well, the bureaucracy, I think, COVID really accelerated the part in reducing that. I was also very happy when, because I actually moved back here last year in August.
Oh, right, in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, in the middle of COVID, started my own business, and I mean, it went much easier than I expected to do the whole process online. So I'm really happy to see this happening, and I hope it's not just it was just a start, and that it continues.
Right, it can't regress. I don't think after this. No, I don't think so. I do find it's typical. I mean, we had been a little bit spoiled. That's the word I was looking for before. Aruba had been a little bit spoiled because despite all these things, still a lot of people wanted to come to Aruba. We had hotels, lines and brands waiting for decades to enter. So they just wait and wait. So that's why, since that spoilage happened and then was stopped with the COVID, the urgencies came up and we had to solve some immediate issues, I believe, there. So that's one of the good things that will come out of COVID, for sure, I think. Efficiency, increased efficiency.
Yeah. And it's also not just helpful for foreign investors, but it's also very helpful for the locals as well.
Of course. And to get you back, for example, right? We want talented people to come back to our island, so...
Yeah. And, well, so what about specific opportunities to invest in Aruba? So we're talking a little bit about the agriculture, but what do we know, or what can you tell us?
Right. So you're speaking about investment opportunities, what there are? Right. So even let's divide it for a moment. I would say let's divide it into tourism and tourism-related activities. Okay. And then the new sectors, and especially those mentioned, for example, by our predecessor here, which was economic affairs, for example. In the tourism sector, since it is and remains an important element of our economy, I do think there are a lot of niches there still to be explored. So diversification within the tourism sector, right? Bringing added value, bringing sustainability aspects to target that market. We are only 100, and the reason I'm mentioning this because people don't realize sometimes that when we're speaking about us being small, our local population is 110,000, while we have 1 million tourists coming to the islands, right? Over 1 million. So that's a market right there. So there's things you can do within that market to increase added value, to increase that reserve that they leave behind. I think, there's a couple of mentioned in the promising sector as well, including medical tourism, for example, as one. It is a competitive market internationally, but there are certainly some areas. And then you have the new sectors like the agriculture and the food creation. Food security, as you know, it's just now have become, it's essential. It's not even anymore, let's just create food, let's have agriculture. It used to be we import everything because it's much cheaper. Yeah. Actually, that's, it's much cheaper to import than to create it locally. That was the reason that it became completely import dependent, because locally there were a lot of challenges. Now with the innovations, we have talked about a few already, but like food security, I find one very important one. I mean, our tourists need to eat, our locals need to eat. It's not, it's just a fact. We cannot do without food, right? Right. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, honestly. And we've seen locals and have stepped on that train as well recently.
You see a lot of local focus on so it's locally grown,
exactly,
and things like that, and it's
the farm to table ideas have been popping up. But again, that risk capital that I was referring to before, and that is why I found it so important to mention, is because since there's limited risk capital, so the steps will be smaller. Yeah. If you're starting with that risk capital and that equity, you have to start much smaller. Well, if you have an international partner who comes up with you and respects the local environment, because I do find that important, respects the local environment, empowers the local entrepreneur, and then together make it happen, they can be more prominent, they can be bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And also like in tourism, so one of the niches, there's like medical tourism. What else would you say are specific things that we don't necessarily have here, but they can become,
right. I think that's the key question. Like that's the challenge, right? So that's what entrepreneurs are for. But for example, things that you can see that happened even in the COVID, which Aruba did not offer much before, was safe and clean. For example, hikes and tours that were eco-oriented, which before were much more the quad racers and the motor-driven, right? Yeah. So now, the bikes, I've seen mountain biking. Those are new things that recently surfaced. And that area, We know that internationally and locally, experience for tourists is one of the things that they are looking for. This is a transition than it was before. Food here is very good. We get good reviews for our restaurant. It's also an experience. And it's nice to have that. But then anything else that complements their experience here, that would be opportunity. Because that's what they're looking for. I can't mention them because otherwise I would be starting all of them, of course.
No, of course.
But I mean, that's the creativity that we need, is what I mean.
Yeah, because you see that also in happening culturally as well, where you find some empowerment culturally, and also district in San Nicolas, where you have different art exhibitions now. So you have things that drive people there as well. So that's really nice to see.
That's an embedding of the artistic culture in the offering that you have from a tourist perspective. Even for locals, like, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see art everywhere like that now, you know? And that is one perfect example, actually, I think.
It's something new. All right. And Marielsa, I would really like to thank you for, I don't know if there's something else that you really need to add, that you want to add about Aruba and doing business here. What would you say to investors?
Right. I think that for investors, the most important thing I was saying is to have Aruba at heart when you are coming to invest. And I don't say this just because I'm an Aruban and proud to be, actually, but because, you know, we do have dedicated people. We have, you know, we welcome international people to join us in our environment and to make profits here as well. So their safeguarding of our added value here locally, to me, is key, to be honest. It's most important. I think a couple of things that I would also recommend, perhaps, is if investors come, it falls in that similar pattern, but to partner up with locals, not only in the direct ventures, but also to really engage their expertise in any project development. You know, before it used to be that you bring your whole team, and it's necessary, but it's not. We have a lot of local expertise that can be tapped into for various types of investments. Yeah, for sure. And you will miss out if you don't tap into the local people as well. Because they'll know things that you otherwise won't know. So that's really great. I would like to move on to the Q&A session. So we have some questions coming in. Excuse me while I really read. This is very small for me, so I really have to put my screen in my face so I can read it. So the first question is, how has the Aruban tourism economy developed after COVID-19, and what does a new business owner have to be aware of? I think we mentioned a few things. Yes, I think we've spoken a little bit about it, but I think what is important I don't know if this was mentioned in previous session, but Aruba did get a lot of aid, we do have to mention this, from Holland to calm, the unemployment figures, let's call them that, to mitigate escalating unemployment figures during that period where we didn't have occupancy, etc. So our tourism sector, because you asked how the economy is developing now, right? Yeah. Right. So it was quite stagnant for some months, and just now, I have to say, since April and May, considering the vaccinations, you know, the recovery of tourism was planned a little bit later in this year to the extent that it is now. So now we're accelerating above expectations, which is great. And again, for the short term, we do need our tourism back regardless. I mean, that's what we need to boost every move and to have the activities going on. As a new business owner, I think, well, the cost of doing business in Aruba is a challenge. It is a fact. We cannot, we are a small island, which means it's a small market, and which means, we're not an inexpensive island, which should be taken into account. So financial management at every level is always very important. The right projections. And I'm not making advertisement for our own firm here, but I'm just saying that it is very important to include for the longer term viability of any company, especially to take into account the local prices. Yeah. Because sometimes people come and they model, the pricing structures of other countries, but here it's completely different. You have to take it very locally. Yes. I think that's a big, important advice to give. I mean, just like other islands, we are very import dependent, but I think, I don't know exactly how come, maybe because of the tourism industry, our prices are
steeper or higher
They
than,
are. We are.
than other islands?
Well, demand drives pricing a little bit too. So unfortunately, for example, for locals, the F&B sector, is quite steep to go out and eat. But the fact is that is what we can offer, and it is a competitive environment, and that is the pricing resulting from, the labor force that we have, the quality of service that we have.
For sure, for sure.
But it's something to take into account in your equations, obviously, because it's not. We don't have the cheap labor force as they used to refer to some other countries, for example. We don't have that.
No.
We don't have that. We do have to take that into account, but we do get quality.
Yeah. No, I think service here is
Right.
always really good. If you go, sometimes you travel, go somewhere else, it's like, oh yeah, no.
Exactly.
Aruba's really like for home. It's my home, but it's still, you notice.
Exactly.
the
That's why the
difference in quality.
dedication of the people here, that's what you pay for.
Yeah.
At the end.
For sure. Let me see what. And I found it interesting that
I
the
hope I
question
answered
was.
that question, by the way.
Yeah, it was after COVID-19, but to me, we're still a little bit in it. I think.
Yes, we are not after.
We're not really
No,
after,
no,
although it's starting to feel that way. I think because I mean, you see how busy Aruba is
Yes.
getting now already, and
Yeah.
it does lift my heart up to see
Oh,
that
yes.
happening.
Oh, my God, absolutely. No, all of us, we are pleased to see this. Yes, people are working. People are working and people are active. And what you mentioned earlier is important, what you were saying, that the people that work in the service sector were missing the tourists. They are smiling beyond their ears now because of the tourists that are back. It's crazy. It's nice to see.
The next question is, what will be the plans for reducing the significant size of government bureaucracy? Do you have there's a more trying to get anything done takes anything far too long.
Yeah.
Do you know? Would you be able to say something about that?
I think it's a great question. For those who don't know, who are the international audience, we are locally going through a whole election process at the moment. At the end of, in less than a month, we'll have elections. So that will help guide, because they all have ideas. The bureaucratic issue is a well-identified concern. It's something that even we have been part of various studies throughout the years that have identified the areas that need to be eased up, that need to be facilitated, and it includes, the heavy burden of, a large government institution. I have to mention that it's a challenge. It's a big challenge that I wish any party who follows again to tackle. It needs to be tackled. I find efficiency very, very, very important. In all honesty, as a private sector, that is. If any party were to ask me, the first thing I would say is please increase the efficiency in general. I feel that when we speak about the private sector being so dedicated, we deserve also a public sector that has that kind of efficiency and that kind of, dedication and performance-oriented streamlining. So I can't solve that problem, obviously, because we're not in the politics. But I think that, and hope, honestly, that it is seriously tackled. We have some pressure from the Netherlands even to tackle this aspect. So I don't think it's something we can escape from at this juncture.
No, I don't think so either. And what I can say is that you see within the government apparatus, departments, the willingness to also tackle this.
Exactly.
So I think that's very important.
It's true.
I really hope that indeed after elections that this will be tapped into, because you don't want to lose this momentum, having everyone on board and tackling this. So I'm very hopeful.
Yes, I am too. I think that it will be. It's on the periphery. Everybody's aware of it. There are a lot of even research and things have been conducted to see how to best handle it.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm hopeful too. And pray a little bit on the side.
Marielsa, can you tell us about some common misconceptions people might have about investment opportunities in Aruba?
I think that, one of the things, even though I mentioned it earlier, but I think it's important to reiterate is that since we are an island in the Caribbean, and you might have experienced this too when you were living abroad, but islands in general have a certain perception, right? So you're from an island, so maybe you guys are lazy. Let me just come there. Yeah. People are just chilling in hammocks and relaxing. And that's a general misconception that I think a lot of islands have. I think more than Aruba, there are a lot of other islands who are also hardworking and stuff. But in any case, I think that the professional attitude and I mean this really, because I have traveled quite some, and I've traveled for work, and I lived in London, I lived in Boston, and I find the professional level in Aruba quite high. I mean, it's nice. People are respectful. People are, I mentioned dedicated a lot, but I think respectful is a good idea as well. Respectful of time, for example, respectful of meetings. I think that is a general professional culture in the private sector, especially. I can say that I really think is very developed and not according to that typical island mindset that some might think.
Yeah. No, for sure. I find as well that here, at least, I mean, I don't know, I find I might be working harder or more than what I used to in the Netherlands. When I worked in the Netherlands, there was a more clear divide, or, people were like, okay, no, now I'm done. I'm going home. And here we do go the extra mile a lot of times. I have to be mindful of that as well, because you don't want to overexert yourself. But I do see that as well in a lot of people that I have come to work with.
You're absolutely right. That's the underestimation of the amount of effort that's placed into making it work.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Europe has that luxury that they have quite some more money to be able to work even reduced hours. Aruba does not have that. Aruba works over, actually, to make sure, to make it, and
and things get done.
Yeah,
for sure. And what is one practical advice that you would give someone who wants to start out in Aruba? Very practical.
Well, it depends, of course, how and with what. And I mentioned it throughout the session today, because I just think it remains important to partner up with locals, as I was mentioned before. I think that's one generally good idea, because it also integrates yourself easier in the culture, so you can be mindful of how to treat and tread around different steps that you'd have to take. Love our island, enjoy our island. I must say, we're hardworking, but if you take that time to really enjoy what we have here, I have to say COVID gave us a lot of that back too. When we could work just a little bit less and enjoy our beautiful beaches and our nature, that balance is definitely recommended to anybody who would come here. Don't just come here, don't think only money, think quality of life, think well-being, think contribution to our people, but also you can be part of it and enjoy it too.
For sure. I think I would say something very practical would be, get all your information, especially from, we were talking about Arena, go to Arena, you will find all the information that you need to start, at least as a starting point. Of course, you have firms such as yourself and others out there who are also there to help. But really start looking at the information and everything.
Before you even come, I think it's a good point.
Before you come, prepare your documents and things like that.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
things will go a lot easier.
You're right.
Let me see. What are the procedures to invest in Aruba? How do you register your business with Aruba? And is it a long process? So there's like 3 questions.
Okay. Well, I think you were addressing the part of Arena, which is actually they're relaunched today, right?
Yes.
Right. So I think that is maybe streamlining and assisting in the part of where you have to go and what you have to do to start a business. It used to be a little bit chaotic, and now I think they're streamlining it better.
Yes, especially I think also for foreign investors, is that you have to register at the Chamber of Commerce just like everyone else. I'm not sure about the exact...
the sequence of events. You have to go to a notary, you have to get your articles of association for a business prepared, you have to go to the economic affairs. I'm not sure to what extent Arena is now assisting with the actual work rather than guidance. I don't know what the plan that is. I don't know if you heard that session, but in any case, the go-to place would be to find out indeed the steps like you were mentioning. And they all do have that available.
It's online.
Yes, they do have it online. The Chamber of Commerce, like oftentimes if you go to the notary will help you register.
Yeah.
But you'll have to go to the economic affairs anyway to go through that trajectory as well.
Yeah, so you can get your business license.
Exactly.
So
and usually you have to have a business plan for that, and you have to have, you can't just say I'm going to start a business and then not have it planned at all.
No.
You have to have an intention for the business and know exactly what you're going to be doing. That's one thing that maybe it's important to mention. Aruba is not, there are good reasons for it, I have to say, and I do think it's a good idea. You can't just come here and do whatever you want. You do have to go through these processes, which streamlines and guides our economy as well.
Yeah, it's not
you can't just decide to do whatever you want in one day and then you think, oh, you can just start and blah. No, you have to go through your processes. You have to get approved, get formally taken in and considered and assessed.
Yeah, so a good place, to start would be looking up information in DEACI, Arena, and Chamber of Commerce, Notary.
Exactly.
They're all good places to find the proper information that you need.
Exactly.
All right, let me see. I think we have time for probably one last question. So, this is a really nice one. So, why not open the tourism industry to tech-driven innovation? Prop tech is huge globally. This diversifies in talent, tech, data science, which in turn drives innovation in new industries in time. So, tech-driven innovation in tourism.
I didn't understand the question. What was the question?
Why not open the tourism industry to tech-driven innovation?
Yes. Actually, that is one of the things that I meant with a part that can be improved within the tourism sector. So efficiency aspect, having those innovations embedded will increase the experience from another perspective for the tourists. So there's room for growth in that area. I know there are some that are working on it. Actually, some innovations happened with high tech as well during COVID because of them not having to touch and being able to, encounter that personal experience as much. Yeah. But I'm not sure I'm answering that question. But
it's I find it also a bit difficult because it's not that we're not open to it. Right?
No, so Aruba is open to it, but again, I think because we were spoiled to a certain degree, that innovation was not very visible. I think that now it's the perfect time to get that going, actually.
Yes.
So yes, I think Aruba is very open for it. As a matter of fact, we've had quite some years trying to focus on fintech and trying to bring partners again in this area to stimulate in various sectors. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Something we want added value.
Yes, and we would love to hear more and learn about what else you guys think we should be doing in the tech-driven tourism.
Exactly, yes.
All right. Do I have another, we have time for one last question. And are there plans to finance local entrepreneurs?
Sorry, are there plans
for local entrepreneurs? So
to find local entrepreneurs?
To finance local entrepreneurs.
Finance, okay. Well, this is where that risk capital story comes in. Local entrepreneurs, for sure. Listen, there's a lot of capital in Aruba. There are commercial banks, there are pension funds. Everybody is willing to finance, risk mitigated projects that are well thought through. The only thing about the local entrepreneurs is that if it's something very innovative and not the standard traditional sectors that have been financed throughout, those sometimes have that challenge of not being able to obtain the risk of capital. And that is where I'm asking actually from the foreign potential investors to seek that assistance, because that would really bring that increased match for Aruba. Yeah. But that's the capital that we would need. Yeah, and that would compensate for a local entrepreneur in a far better extent. That's what we're also trying to do that with various projects, because that's what Aruba needs, and then the local environment can absorb it.
All right. Marielsa, I would like to thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think this has been a very inspiring and great conversation. And I'm sure that all of the attendees would have thought that as well. We will now move on to a short break of 15 minutes, during which I would like to invite each and every one of you attending to attend the virtual booths in this event. You may also just browse around and get to know each other in the networking area. And don't forget, we will be hosting a roundtable session at the end of this morning. So we'll see you in a bit.